All right, welcome to another episode of MDTV. We're talking again about the coronavirus. All right, so today I just want to expand on kind of more of a subjective viewpoint of this whole thing and maybe give some tips out there and hopefully break some myths. All right, let's dive in. So, the first myth that we have been hearing out there is that in regards to the origin of the virus, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I've heard things all the way from the Chinese government created to kill Donald Trump, all the way to a laboratory in Iran. Okay, so if you really look at the science here, there is no conspiracy theory. This clearly came from originally a bat and then to other animals that were sold at a food market, a wet food market in China. And if you haven't seen photos of what that looks like, I encourage you to look that up because it's definitely not the norm way of life and how we trade and handle our food here in America. So there's cages and cages of animals that are put on top of each other that are slaughtered there and then sold raw everywhere. And then people come in and it's just this area where disease can jump from animal to animal as well as animal to human. All right. So this disease did in fact come from an animal that was originated in China. This is very similar to the SARS outbreak. Okay, so this is similar to SARS. The SARS outbreak also started with an animal in a wet shop in China, in a region, I believe, southeast of Wuhan. Okay, but it's the same story, but it's just about 20 years later. Okay, 17 years later. Now, um, another way we know that this virus originated in China or in an animal rather, and not a laboratory, is that the molecular structure of the virus is um, incompatible with the ability of scientists in virology to construct. In other words, this virus looks like super wonky and not something that somebody has been able to replicate or recreate in a laboratory. And also, there's something that is similar to carbon dating that you can do with viruses, which is pretty cool because it mutates at a predictable rate. And so you can trace back the mutations by testing a ton of animals and seeing what virus strain they carry. Um, you can look to see, okay, based on how much time has passed, how many mutations have undergone now that it's infected the human, and you can really trace back the virus to its origin almost the specific day. So it's pretty cool. And turns out again, this was traced back sometime in November in an animal in Wuhan, China, and ultimately, um, you know, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like 27 out of the 40 people that first were diagnosed with the coronavirus were at the meat market that day. Okay, I'm going to say that again. So 27 of the first 40 that were identified to have this virus um, um, were at that meat shop. Okay, so pretty clear origin here. Now, um, we've gone through a lot about kind of the overviews, the relative perspectives of this virus, and I'm sure a lot of people want to know what can they do to stop this from spreading. So I want to tell you right now that largely you can't, and that we're going to continue to see cases spike and spike and spike and spike. That even if we contain the virus within our own borders, it seems as if that it's going to continue to increase outside of the country, and ultimately, most of the world's population, or at least a significant portion, will be infected by the virus. Okay, but what do we do to protect ourselves? Well, it starts with just being healthy and making healthy choices. I mean, it sounds like we're beating a dead horse here, but really, if you can optimize your health outside of the hospital, then it will only make things better for you to prevent you from coming into the hospital. Okay, so live a healthy healthy lifestyle, and that really does carry weight. Another thing, one of the biggest things I've actually heard that can help combat this virus is really it's sleeping. It's quality sleep. It's getting 7 hours or more per night. And the exact mechanism of how sleep increases your immunoprotection is because it has been shown to increase the binding of um, antigens, surface antigens on the MHC complex to the CD4 cells as well as macrophages. So basically, your immune system binds tighter to the things that it needs to kill, and it does so when you receive adequate sleep versus someone who receives less sleep. They have a less tight affinity and binding of those proteins in regards to their immune system. Okay, you can go look up this research, but there's a lot of sleep study data that shows how sleep affects our immunity. So I would highly recommend people who are afraid of this watch the amount that you're sleeping and make sure you get quality rest. And I believe that sleeping reduces your chance of getting the common cold to up to 80%. Okay, so there's some similarities that can be said there. All right. Um, there's other things that I can go into, but well, let's say this. A lot of people are asking about masks and do masks protect yourself and all that. And masks do not. Okay, so masks turns out do not protect you uh, from the coronavirus. This is your everyday mask that you probably see in public, but what does protect against coronavirus is this N95 mask. Okay, now it's not perfect, but this is what doctors are required to wear when going to see a patient. Yes, you can still contract the virus even if you're wearing N95. However, it can help reduce the rate of transmission. Okay, so while your everyday masks are not helpful, the N95 sure is. But good luck getting your hands on that. I just wrote hand washing because that's obvious to help the spread of infection. I would say avoiding it's really places that with a lot of people that share common air. Um, so obviously, cruises um, and other things where you're in these confined spaces and you're forced to breathe the same air as other people. And I don't want to go as far as saying airplanes, but just keep in the back of your mind that that air is not getting filtered enough, even if it is getting filtered. It's not getting filtered to filter out the coronavirus. So you're just stuck breathing the same air as the other passengers and likely may contract something that somebody else is carrying. So avoid cruises and large shared airspaces. Um, last thing is supplements. Everybody wants to take a pill or a form of a supplement. And so a lot of people might ask, what about vitamin C plus zinc, airborne, whatever else is out there? It just turns out that there's not definitive data to show that any of these will reduce um, the transmission or the deadliness of the virus if you do in fact contract it. Now, there's a caveat to zinc that if you can get zinc inside the cell, it has been shown to inhibit one of the most active enzymes in the coronavirus, which is called replicase. Um, but the problem is, even if you take all the zinc supplements in the world, it doesn't actually get into your cells. So it doesn't actually do the job that it's supposed to do when taking the zinc supplement. You just pee it all out. So it never ends up getting in the cells where it needs to be to exert its effects. And there's actually a drug called chloroquine that allows zinc to get into the cell and ultimately exert its effects on that replicase enzyme to inhibit it and shut down viral production. And they're actually using chloroquine um, and zinc in South Korea. That's one of the treatments in addition to an HIV medication. So anyways, kind of got off on a tangent there, but the point is that your zinc supplements are not going to work because you don't have this lovely drug to help get zinc inside the cell. So it turns out you're peeing it all out along with your vitamin C, and it's doing no good as far as the studies we have to date. Okay. Lastly, is a vaccine. So people have been asking about that, and from my knowledge, this is going to be uh, a long time away. There's going to be no vaccine available anytime soon to help prevent the spread of this virus. But I would just say focus on what you can do and what is within your control, and that is living a healthy lifestyle, getting adequate sleep. If you want to go to an extreme measure and protect yourself, get an N95. I don't recommend it. Always wash your hands and have good hygiene. Avoid I don't want to put anything in particular, but just avoid large shared airspaces if you're truly concerned. And finally, just think twice about buying all those supplements. All right, thanks.